My Life in Washington, D.C.
I know I put up the 9/11. Okay, I'm Jan, and I'm known as the Umbrella Lady. I began 6 years ago, last June, with a pie chart sitting out here showing people the percentages of their budget, their tax budget, what goes where. And people are really shocked to know that so much of this discretionary budget, 78%, goes to the Department of Defense. And the Department of Defense, people have come by and told me, don't you know the waste that goes on in the Department of Defense? Well, I didn't know that. People came from the other departments and said, we're forced to kick back under the table to the Department of Defense. The EPA told me that, Health Department, somebody from the Department of Education, somebody from the General Government Department said they're forced by Congress to kick back under the table to the DOD or they won't get their budgets approved. That sounds like extortion to me. I know if we did that, we'd be arrested. So I think Americans, since the military-industrial complex bought up the media back in the 70s, they weren't going to have photographers running around the battlefields queering their money-making machine in Vietnam anymore. So they bought up the media. So when they were ready to go into the Middle East, they did it without pictures. So we wouldn't see the dead and dying babies and the carnage of war. And we have to have a war, you see, to justify all that spending. So they start wars. They did this, they practiced it first in South America. In South America is where we honed our skills on how to destroy stable countries so that American corporations could come in and steal their resources. And that's exactly what we've done time after time again. Like most Americans don't realize that World War II, Hitler was financed when he was broke in the mid-30s by money from Rockefeller and money from Henry Ford. It went to A.B. Brown Investment, a Bush family vehicle, downstairs in the same Manhattan building to the Union Bank, which is also a Bush family bank. It went to a bank in Copenhagen and then to a Jewish bank in Berlin. Millions and millions of dollars. And Hitler, who had been broke and given up his idea of a war, was suddenly up and running again. And the Koch brothers' father built an oil refinery for him. Now, it was interesting that when we did have that war, that we had to let the Russians defeat Germany. We didn't invade Europe to stop him. We instead went into North Africa because Rockefeller was after the oil, Standard Oil Company. You know, the Bush family worked for them. So there's all this interconnection of these corporations and these same corporate families. That's just a stranglehold in this country, and just a few people have put it together. By the way, that information on World War II, the largest defense contract went to Henry Ford. It was a B-52 bomber, 1 million pieces. He was able to string that out in every state and keep that thing going on into the 70s. I think it was still being made, wasn't it? And it seemed to me that Ted Kennedy finally wrote a book about it, about the anachronism, the bad, the stupid weapons we were still making that were no longer useful. So that's kind of what I'm saying, is that the war has legs of its own. And we're just a silly people. We're sitting around. And we have no control over the war. I was a teacher in Florida, and then I moved to Reno in my 30s, and I burned out teaching, loved it, but burned out. So I went into the insurance business, and then when my husband needed me at home after a while, and what I did was, I can't stand being still. So I became a television producer for public access. And at that time, I also edited the Nevada Democratic News, and I put Nevada Democrats on the air. And when I would do candidate interviews, I interviewed everybody. If we had a roundtable discussion, I had everybody from every party. I did not do just Democrats and Republicans. That's what's wrong here. And that is why I voted Green Party. I voted, it's the first time I've done that, but I voted Green Party because we need those issues brought to the table, the Green Party issues, not just on climate control, but on a lot of things brought to the table. And I'm here because I grew up in the South, and boy, you want to talk about a load of BS. Females in the South are raised on so much BS. And I went out west, and it really wasn't that much different. So I guess I'm a person who can detect BS. Some people can, and I don't think I'm. Let me give you a little example since you like real life in the park. There's a block over there with a plate on it it's dedicated to Bernard Baruch. He was a very famous statesman, and he was actually more famous as a financier. But he was an advisor to presidents, and he used to sit in this park. He was famous for it. But you can't sit on the bench half the time because the statue smells so bad. Now, it is my opinion that Bernard Baruch was probably instrumental in helping Israel get started as a country. And it is my opinion that it's the Palestinians that are coming over there to take a dump on his statue, on his memorial. I'm embarrassed to report that, but it's kind of funny too. As a mother and a woman who really, I've enjoyed the men in my life. I've had my uncles, my grandfathers, they were all outstanding men in our communities. And my husband was the kind of man that dogs and kids followed him down the street. He was such a wonderful human being, very shy, very quiet. But I have something to say about the men who are in Congress. I think they've been sodomized so much by the Wall Street and by the Department of Defense that and the military contractors that I don't know how they can sit in their chairs up there. You may want to edit this, but it's important.
Okay, go ahead.
Before the election, I lived at a place. I lived at a senior retirement home, and they were mostly Democrats. I know some people just kept their mouths shut and didn't say anything, and I figured them for Republican voters. And they just didn't want a big fuss. They didn't want a lot of argument. And that's when it moved out, and I noticed. I always thought Hillary was going to win that election, which she did in a way. But I noticed there was this great silence. You could hear the silence in the presidential campaign, and it was the people who were fed up with whatever and weren't going to rationalize or be able to dig themselves out, and that was a defensive vote. And it didn't surprise me that much that Trump was elected. Now, something hopeful. Well, one of the things that we noticed that was really, really hopeful was when Trump said good things about Hillary, and they all were conciliatory, and Obama, and met in the last few days, and it's been wonderful to see. But I have a bad feeling that something's come up, and that Hillary and Trump have both been briefed on it now. That something's come up that's going to greatly affect our nation, and I just hope it's not Fukushima. Because I've been hearing rumors, people come down here and talk to me and tell me what they're hearing in their government departments. And I've been hearing rumors about that we might lose the Pacific Ocean due to the nuclear plant that, meltdown. And I'm wondering, and at some point they would have to evacuate the West Coast. And I know they're telling us not to eat fish. I don't know what to say. That's not hopeful.